Earth Day's coming up on Friday, a day to celebrate our planet and to think about saving it as well. And while big things like higher temperatures, rising sea levels, and stronger storms are well known, other changes might be harder to notice but are just as important. The lesser known effects of climate change are our featured story at the top of the list. When's the last time you called the cops when you heard a car alarm? Never, right? Because we hear them all the time, so we stop listening. And the same thing seems to have happened when scientists sound the alarm on climate change.
Climate change started getting kicked around in the 70s and 80s, but people thought it was something way off in the future.
Scott Withers is a meteorologist at Newsy.
Well, the future is now. According to the new UN report on climate change, we're at a tipping point. And once we go past that, a lot of the damage to the planet is going to be irreversible.
But aren't those findings controversial?
97% of the scientists say this is real, it's undisputable.
Why are we so bad at taking in this information?
Humans notice big things that happen quickly. We don't really see the small, gradual changes that happen in our life.
So we're setting aside the obvious stuff like unprecedented wildfires and extreme weather events to look at some lesser known effects of climate change that are happening right now. Let's start with a decrease in ocean circulation.
As the glaciers melt, they're putting a lot of fresh water into the ocean. That causes the sea level rise, but it also changes the circulation pattern of the water that comes from the equator up past the United States.
This current is called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation.
When it moves, it brings a lot of warm temperatures with it, and that helps warm up where we live.
But the water needs to be salty enough for the current to flow properly, and fresh water from melting glaciers is diluting the salinity of the ocean.
We're already seeing it slowing down. If it were to stop completely or even significantly slow down, temperatures in North America would plummet, and we would be looking at near ice age temperatures for a large part of the East Coast.
And here's one that's counterintuitive. A massive drought is causing floods?
The mega drought that's been gripping the Southwest for 2 decades is just getting worse and worse. It's actually the worst in about 1,200 years.
And all that heat and dry air causes massive evaporation of surface water.
Lake Powell's at its lowest level ever.
And all that water's gotta go somewhere.
The moisture is just getting sucked up into the clouds and then moved quickly to the eastern United States. That's why we're seeing lots of floods. I call it the tale of 2 countries, the drought and the floods.
It was the driest of times, it was the wettest of times. Finally, all these changes are about to incite a huge climate migration.
Normally people move from the upper Midwest when they retire down to a warmer climate, like in Phoenix or in Florida or Las Vegas. But now people are starting to consider reversing that.
In fact, cities like Buffalo are preparing to welcome so-called climate refugees, encouraging people to buy homes now while they're still affordable.
In 15, 20 years, the water problem in the Southwest is going to be beyond control. But up in the Great Lakes, basically Chicago through Michigan into Buffalo, those areas are going to have plenty of water. And the climate there is going to be more like what we see now in Tennessee. It's going to be warmer summers, warmer winters, and no big extremes.
But despite all these changes, it's not too late.
It's not doom and gloom. There are things that we can do, but we're right at that tipping point.
So the time to act is right now. The lesser known effects of climate change are at the top of the list.